1986. It's a bloody foolish year. Because somehow in one glorious, ridiculous, prank-happy year, Hollywood gave us not one, not two, but three cheesy slasher flicks, all centered around April Fool's Day. That's right, 1986 turned April 1st from harmless hijinks into a full-blown killing season. No longer just whoopee cushions and fake lottery tickets, now it's mass killers, revenge plots, and practical jokes that go just a little too far. We're talking about April Fool's Day, Killer Party, and Slaughter High, landed on the exact same idea. What if a killer is hiding behind a prank? Three separate films, all built on the same twist premise, hit theaters and video shelves within months of each other. No coordination, no crossover, just pure accidental alignment. Total coincidence, total 80s magic. First one up, April Fool's Day. It was the first one released in the year 1986. It was the one lucky enough to have the April Fool's release date. It actually got released on March 27th, which is a Thursday. This was an official Thursday release date, which is just so weird. But obviously they were trying to get it out for the April 1st weekend, but it still doesn't make sense that March 27th needed to be the release date because March 28th was Friday. This is the best looking film of the bunch, the best produced, probably had the highest budget, had the most well-known cast. Not that they're all big stars, but a number of them had been in previous films that were either hits or remembered fondly, unlike some of the other films we'll talk about where none of the cast is really known actors. It's kind of a unique entry in the slasher or holiday slasher genre. It has a twist that it is most well known for.
What a twist!
Some people like the twist and find it clever. Others think it ruins the film.
I'll say two words: Fred Walton, the director of this movie. And when you say it is the best looking film, it's because Fred Walton directed When a Stranger Calls and followed this movie up with the Rosemary Murders. So it had a real director at the helm, which always really helps. But like you said, John, the title gives away the twist, but that's great because it's subversive. It's like it is in the title. So, you know, you shouldn't be too...
And there's so much stuff going on that you kind of lose track that the whole April Fool's thing is going on with, like, because the movie's kind of like a murder mystery.
Yeah, people shouldn't be too upset. It's in the title. It tells you April Fools.
To your point about Fred Walton being the director, Ben, this is the only movie out of the three that didn't feel like a student project.
It's definitely the most professionally made, for sure, 100%. For me, this one, it's not my least favorite of the three, but it's probably the middle one because it doesn't really have a wow factor except for that twist ending, which I do like. And this is going to be full of spoilers. Obviously, these movies are very old, 40 years old. The glossiness, the pretty great 80s cast separates itself from those other ones. But from an enjoyment level, I've got more to say about, you know, some of the upcoming films as well.
Well, I would say it separates itself as well from its screenplay. Not that it's, you know, any great work of writing, but they do give character development to all of these characters. You do kind of get to know every single one of them. They're all distinct and different, feel like characters of that era, you know, of cinema. It's not like they're totally realistic characters, but they feel realistic characters of that era of slasher films and stuff. And you know, you have a number of actors that really stand out that put in good work in this movie, like the guy who plays Biff, Tom Wilson. One of the other guys was in Just One of the Guys. It's kind of like the lead.
It's got Debbie Foreman from Valley Girl and Real Genius.
She's in Real Genius. I mean, she's such a small part in Real Genius, but she's memorable because she's beautiful.
She's memorable because of that face, yeah.
And then Amy Steele, I always remembered her as one of the best final girls in the Friday 13th series, and went on to do some other films that I enjoyed, like Walk Like a Man. And I think it even has some scenes where, you know, the dialogue feels almost natural, like the scene where the girl's reading from the Cosmo magazine or whatever and quizzing her friends on sex and things like that. And it's just like, I don't know, it felt far more realistic than anything in the other two films.
So we're talking 1986 here. So you can't get much more 1986 than listing off the character names: Muffy St. John, Chaz Vazinski, Rob Ferris, Those are, I don't even think you're allowed to name your kid Chaz anymore. I think it's against the law. Arch Cummings, yeah, I think that's Biff, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Archie. They filmed themselves and did kind of this little testimonial to the camera, and that was a little ahead of its time. For basically in the 90s, that became all the rage with the Real World and so many other things that started to take on the reality TV element, whether it showed up in a film or on TV. And that, was a little ahead of its time right there in those scenes.
Well, and it's like the 86 was when they really started, like VHS camcorders were just taking off. They were real expensive, but it was all the craze right around that time because it was such a fascinating new toy to play with. And when I was a kid and I got my hands on a neighbor's VHS camcorder, I was just shooting everything all the time. I think John was too. It made sense, and it also helped with the plot that you're getting sort of like testimonials, if you will,
As drunk as possible every time.
Good job.
Well, that's easy. We were always drunk.
April Fools really had a good feel to it. It's filmed in British Columbia. You kind of got invested, but we're so desensitized to the great special effects now. For someone who had never seen these films when I was younger, I lost interest really quickly with just how bad the special effects were, being overly critical of it.
Back then you're grinding, you're doing what you can with what you have.
Yeah.
And some of it's admirable, and a lot of it comes down to, I don't want to bore the audience, but editing. Can you cut something in a way where it looks grander or more realistic, even though the stunt or the whatever effect itself wasn't great? It's a lot of times it's up to the editor to camouflage that scene and make it, whether that be like reactions from somebody, off camera or whatever, which I think Killer Party does really well, but we're not talking about that one yet. The two that I had seen previous to us doing this was this and Killer Party. And the only thing I'm good at memorizing is when I saw movies and where I was. I wish that I could get paid for that. But I remember seeing this on television before I was a teenager. And I just doing up some research on it. It got a lot of viewings. It got a lot of airings on regular television back in the day because it wasn't that violent.
It's so tame, and then with the way that it ends, giving the full spoilers to everyone that nobody actually is dead in this movie by the time you get to the end.
Well, that sucks.
That, I guess it makes it okay that along the way, maybe you saw a couple people get killed, because most things happen off screen. While you're watching it for a first time, you might think, oh, this is just a neutered horror movie. That's why everything's happening off screen. By the end, it kind of makes more sense. That's why some of the things happen off screen, because there isn't really a death happening. Watching it like a horror movie and wanting to get the things you normally would expect out of a horror movie, those thrills, those frights, and the gore, this is very lacking, I would say. It can create some nice tension and atmosphere. Cinematography and score and atmosphere actually work to still make it feel enough like a horror movie that you can enjoy yourself, but it is really lacking when it comes to the gore or the actual scares. Jump scares usually aren't that good anyway, but I don't think this has really that many jump scares that are effective either.
You have to be careful when you're making a movie where the ultimate goal is the twist that everyone's alive. Who are you fooling? If you show an on-screen kill with gore, then you're just destroying your twist, because how do you explain that? So instead, you'll see suggestive deaths, and then you'll see an aftermath of a dead body.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see a hatchet go into someone's head, because why would you do that?
I don't want to nitpick how the prank, the April Fool's joke throughout the entire weekend could really have been pulled off, because that would put a lot of holes in this movie. Like, it just doesn't feel realistic that, every person could be approached like they're going to be killed, but then told, oh, this is part of a prank, and it all happens very quickly where they're able to reset the scene for the next person to walk in the room and find a body or whatever. Like, I'm not going to poke holes in all of that, but the one that's hard to get behind, which is actually kind of the best moment, one of the best moments of the movie, and clearly the most gore in the movie, is the deckhand that falls into the water and gets crushed by the boat.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say
How
that.
did they apply? And even though he's the makeup artist, still, how did he apply that stuff convincingly onto his face within seconds and have an eyeball hanging out and all that stuff? Maybe just a big slap, a big sticky thing right on your face is all it needed to happen. But
Because he's the next Tom Savini. That's why.
Apparently, yeah.
That's what this movie does well. I mean, I guess with this premise, you have to do that, which is establish that there are people actually playing April Fool's pranks on each other. So then when they start getting killed off, you're like, oh, so now it's real. It's like those movies where it's like, oh, we're going to take you through this funny adventure land. And then it's like, oh no, this is real stakes. We're going to die if we don't, whatever. Like,
and all three films play into the April Fool's theme, and they all feature pranks and April Fool's jokes. But this one, I think, does the best, playing into not just having the title April Fool's, but playing into the holiday. And there are pranks played all throughout on the group that comes to the island, like realistic April Fool's pranks versus, lighting someone on fire and saying oops or whatever, like happens in some of these other movies. But like the whoopee cushions when they sit down for dinner, probably one of the best ones is like the champagne glasses that have little holes in them that dribble on everybody.
Yeah, the exploding cigars too, John. And that's my favorite scene in the movie, is the scene with the lights going on and off in a different order. I thought that was really clever.
Part of the issue with this movie is, even though it's really well made and it's got good performers and the script is clever, now that you know it, it's not that fun to, like, I would probably never watch this again, even though we watched it for this purpose. But it's not a movie I'm ever thinking, oh, I should go grab April Fool's. It's worth watching, because when you know the twist, it's not that exciting to watch people be stalked when you know really nothing's happening, be killed when they're really not dead. So if the very final moment was a real murder happened, it would just reset everything. Be like, that's fine that all those other people lived. There was still stakes in this movie. It wouldn't make it that much better.
Like movies like The Sixth Sense, it's like, yeah, the twist is everything, but that movie's still very enjoyable and rewatchable, and going back and noticing things. I don't know if this movie has that detailed sort of staying power to go back and see. I don't think it was clever enough. If it was really smart, it would technically give away the clues that these are fake, but to where you don't notice it until after you know the twist. But I don't know if it hit that level of like peak, Yeah,
and I actually read something in an interview with the director, and he said that although it was a commercial success, the tragedy or the great disappointment of the film is that Paramount didn't know how to release it in any other way than just being a typical slasher picture. So most audience came in expecting to see something that they weren't going to see, because it's not your typical slasher picture like when you think of Killer Party or Slaughter High.
The trailer I watched did play up the humor a little bit. It didn't make it feel like a comedy, but it does show you that there's a humorous side to the movie.
Cordially invites you to a party to end all parties.
The craziest party that could ever be.
April Fool.
If this movie was made today, they'd probably get the guys from Radio Silence to do it, or someone like Adam Wingard, who did Your Next, and put this comedic edge to it where they're kind of telling you right off the bat, hey, don't take this seriously. But instead, this movie does play itself like a slasher movie. And yeah, there's humor in it, but yeah, you gotta have, if you're gonna have Thomas Wilson in a movie, he's gonna throw out zingers like he's shooting threes all over the court,
What's Michael J. Fox like? He's nice. What's Christopher Lloyd like? Kinda quiet. What's Crispin Glover like? Unusual. Stop asking me the question.
Imagine, John, if like Hereditary, at the end of Hereditary, they're like, April Fools! The whole...
I think while we were watching Killer Party, not necessarily this one, I brought up how much I think that movie, and even a movie like April Fool's Day and Slaughter High to some degree, are the type of movie that I feel that Kevin Williamson would grow up watching, or at least in his day before he was a screenwriter, was a film fan, and saw the tropes and started formulating ideas on how to work that into the script for screen.
This movie, and to a lesser degree Slaughter High, that's got the Scream template all over him, like specifically this one, with the ending, and the explanation and all that stuff. But Slaughter High also because it's high school and revenge and stuff. But this one, I can totally see Kevin Williamson watching this and getting those Scream ideas and stuff.
Speaking of posters, so that is how back in the day we used to wander the video store aisles and fall in love with some movie or find out, man, that movie looks awesome from its video box art. I got to see it someday. Maybe I'm too young to see it now, but this one had an awesome cover. If any of you remember, I'm sure Ben remembers it. Danny, I don't know if you would know what the cover of this looks like. A woman that you see from behind, and her hair is braided into a noose. So we can see that she's got a noose hanging basically down the back side of her back. She's also holding a knife behind her. So she's got all these deadly weapons behind her. And then all of the friends are at the table in front of her, like raising a glass and having a great time. And it's a very clever poster and one that I would never forget.
But this was right before it started to, the water level got too high and slasher movies pretty much disappear. They didn't disappear. There's always small indie films, and
there weren't many that took themselves serious anymore. They
it
all leaned into comedy.
That's why when they say Scream brought it back, it really did.
Chucky, I guess Chucky was one of the few that came along afterwards that had success. That at least in the first film was still scary.
You stupid bitch! You filthy slut!
They still need to make that Teddy Ruxpin movie happen, man. Like, they did the Barbie movie. You got to do Teddy Ruxpin the movie and make it a fucking horror movie. I'm telling you.
I'm gonna put my evil inside you.
These are the best times of our lives.
Is this Killer Party or is this the April Fool? Because it was once known as the April Fool.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
in fact, all of these films were known as April Fool's Day or the April Fool until one of them won out and got the title, and the rest had to rename themselves.
And unfortunately, Killer Party was stuck with a release date less than 2 months after April Fool's Day. So it got the name Killer Party, which when you watch the film doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Because there is a party in this movie and a lot of shit does happen, but it's in the last 15 minutes of the movie. So Killer Party came out May 9th of 1986. I didn't realize, and it makes a lot of sense, that the whole movie was shot in Canada. It was shot in Toronto and Ontario. Makes a lot of sense now when you see it. It's got that kind of overcast, like it's got a creepiness to it, which when movies used to film in Canada, you were always guaranteed sort of this gray tone, which I really like. This movie has the most bonkers opening scene because it has nothing to do with the movie whatsoever. Long, elaborate music video as if the director of this film was promoting either his band or his friend's band. The director of this is William Fruitt. But man, if you don't have any interest in seeing Killer Party, just watch the first 5 minutes. Because it's wild, it makes no sense, has nothing to do with the rest of the movie, but is highly entertaining.
It's White Sister. And
White Sister.
And the name of the song is You're No Fool.
So let me read you the official synopsis. It's very long. I'll just read you the first sentence or two. 3 gorgeous babes decide to join a sorority, and a whole bunch of horny guys dump bees in the sorority's backyard where a bunch of girls are naked in the outside hot tub. So when the girls jump in, the boys use a camera to take lots of shots of them.
What the fuck? This is synopsis?
Yeah. I guess they're taking it. To me, that's more like a treatment, but probably my lowest ranked on here. And this is the one I saw a few times. I saw it as a kid. I did really like the ending. It just takes too fucking long to get there. It's such a fucking slog. And all you're really doing, and I'm not a sensitive person. I don't get offended by shit the way a lot of people do in 2026. But just watching the fraternity guys fucking with the sorority girls, it's cringy, man. You're like, oh my God. You have this, Revenge of the Nerds, all that stuff.
We've got Bush.
Oh, hair pie.
All these people should be in prison for a lot of these funny pranks. But it does have my favorite song in any slasher movie ever. These are the best times of our life.
We have finally found a place where we belong. We can't go wrong.
No, I think it plays 3 times. Yeah. I gotta say, they shoot for the fence at the end though, and it does kind of redeem it a little bit with just it goes off the rails.
Yeah, I felt the same while we were watching, especially this is my first time watch. I guess for the three we're talking about, yeah, this was the only one I hadn't seen. I wasn't even sure what the quality was like. So when we turned it on, I was really surprised because I'd already seen Slaughter High and it was like, oh, wow, this is better quality. I thought maybe it'd be worse. Looked good. The acting was better than Slaughter High, but not of the quality that you had in April Fool's Day. Some of the actresses are really gorgeous. I don't know any of their names, but there's like the blonde and then the brunette. She's the hot one, in my opinion.
Yeah, the brunette's the hot one. I think her name is Elaine Wilkes.
Correct. And then there's a Joanna Johnson as well.
I don't really like watching super low budget stuff. It just, especially by yourself, if you end up, having to watch that kind of thing by yourself, you don't get the same laugh that you get out of a group of buddies.
Yeah, you got to have buddies and beers for the crappy low budget. Yeah.
So I was happy to see that we're getting a better film, but then once it truly got into its narrative after those two kind of fake out openings, it got really slow. It wasn't making a whole lot of sense. It wasn't formulating its horror plot all that well. It was just doing a lot of like teen sex scenes and things like that, and the hazing and sorority scenes and stuff like that. And it took forever to get to where anything horror related was happening. But then, yes, once you get to the end, the official killer party that takes place at the sorority house, things go off the rails. Huge tonal shift in the movie, but there's some insane cool shit that happens in the last 20 minutes of the movie.
I think it was so slow, like you said, getting up to that point. By the time you get to all of that, you're just waiting for it to be over. This was my least favorite of the three, and I really feel like they just tried to do too much with it. There was too much going on, and the story wasn't strong enough. There was no payoff in this movie for me.
In the hands of a better director, you could have made this a slow burn if it was eerie. Problem is it feels like a college coming of age comedy, like Hot Dog the movie, or like Ski School, Revenge of the Nerds. And then in the late second half of the third act, it gets dark and serious and violent, which is great. But Danny, you said it perfectly. It's like you're waiting for it to end by that point. A better director could have built it up to where you're like, what is really going on? But the movie takes itself, as John said, it's such a tonal shift because it doesn't take itself seriously at all. And then the end is nuts in a way. I still, even on this rewatch, I'm like, wow, that end is still kind of a banger, because you're like, wow, all of a sudden it gets supernatural and there's a really cool sound design done with the voice of the demon coming out of the girls as it possesses them. But it's too little too late because the movie it had no identity except for just college hijinks until that point. And that scene is nuts. That's where all the money, that's where the whole budget went, because they're climbing through the rafters of this house and she's exploding staircases with her fucking mind and stuff.
Yeah.
You're like, holy shit.
It's like Friday 13th Part 7, like telekinesis, and she's like breaking apart the stairs and the walls are coming apart. And then eventually, I'm guessing they shot it with a rotating room in some way. She starts climbing walls and onto
that
the ceiling.
Scene's awesome, dude.
That scene is pretty awesome. Obviously this has some Exorcist vibes going on in it, and that's the one thing that does make this stand apart from the other three. The three films we're talking about. This one has a supernatural element.
What the fuck?
It's kind of there early on, but you're not sure. Like they talk about this ghost, and there's a possibility this ghost is behind it all. But they're also showing you like stalkers' feet and things like that to try and make you think there's a real person behind.
Yeah, they're just showing you like a slasher movie, but hinting at a supernatural element.
And that's where that tonal shift in the third act, that it switches to have those elements of supernatural, those elements of demonic possession, and just insane shit with like people climbing the walls. None of that exists earlier in the film, or even they don't even allude to it going that direction. So it kind of comes out of nowhere, but
it really does. Cool. It totally comes out of nowhere, but it wakes you up as a viewer.
Yes.
And you're like, oh wow, so now this is something. There's people in danger, and it could switch to person. And I love the scene in the backyard where the hottest one, the brunette short hair one, is like fighting it, and then you don't know, you're like, oh, okay, I guess it's gone. And this movie, I love it. It does end on a downer. I do really love the final scene where, you know, you have the one surviving or two surviving girls and they get into an ambulance and the one is, you know, opens her eyes and is still totally possessed. Yeah, the hot one. And you're like, oh, fuck. And then it drives off. And then we get these are the best times.
Yeah.
These are the best times of our lives.
If this movie was a short film that started when the party started, I would say this is a fucking banger, you know, but.
Well, and there's not a lot of elements of horror movie leading up to the end, but the few times that someone is stalked or killed, like the teacher, I believe one of the few people you actually see get killed on screen is the teacher gets electrocuted. But the few others that are killed, it's all off screen. So a lot like April Fool's Day, you don't have a lot to hang your hat on when it comes to violence or gore until the very end. And even at the end, it's more about her demonic possession. I'm trying to remember, I don't think she starts walking around the party and they're trying to keep the mystery of who the killer is. So she's walking around the party in a deep sea diving outfit, like a diving bell helmet and everything.
The big submersive, like fucking, underwater welder.
Yeah, a couple people get killed by her in that costume, but I don't really remember what those kills are like. Are they basically off-screen kills? The last 20 minutes is really packed with a lot of shit going on, the demonic possession and her murdering people in the house, but I don't even think those deaths made a lot of impact. I don't remember them all that well.
They didn't make a lot of impact, because at that point you're still like, okay, there's a slasher killer at this party. I guess we're supposed to find out who it is, but it's kind of killing people that we don't know or care about. So that's the thing. It's not until, you know, one of the three is possessed and all of a sudden just insane. This girl on your picture right there, that's going after her two friends, where you're like, okay, these two people I kind of care about. I mean, as much as you can for a movie like this. Like, they show their home. Yeah, I mean, they show their home lives and their friendship. Like, it doesn't cheat out on at least getting to know these three girls. So, you know, you get a little bit of that. So yeah, but yeah, all the slasher deaths are just people that are introduced right there and then die, you know. So
do you know if the majority of the budget was spent in the last 20 minutes, do you know where the rest of the budget was spent?
Definitely the music
video. I was gonna say, yeah, they spent a lot of money hiring White Sister.
I think there was a budget for a music video that was rolled into this as a feature film. So the budget for the music video was actually higher because White Sister is like one of the biggest bands ever in the Great White North in Canada. They're like Metallica up there. Everybody's wearing shirts that say White Sister everywhere. Have you been there? I mean, that's what it looks like.
I'm guessing the director made a deal. Hey, I'll direct White Chick's music video if I can use the leftovers to make a very long movie. And they go, well, no, how about make the movie and then we'll attach the White Chick's video to the movie. And
this movie does have the April Fool's element in it. I guess this party, I think, takes place on April Fool's Day. As, the other ones do as well. Maybe you could see those two fake openings of the film almost as an April Fool's prank on the audience.
That's a good point.
And that's the reason why there's like two of them, because just one has been kind of done before, like a fake out. Well, that was the other thing I was thinking about, was like, obviously Scream 4 is famous for its multiple openings, and it felt kind of fresh, at least within the Scream, the meta Scream film franchise, of like, oh, we have fake out openings. Thinking that Kevin Williamson grew up watching a lot of these mid-'80s movies, I'm wondering, because he came back to write part 4. He wasn't a part of 3, but he came back for 4. Did he go with, I don't want to say that he sat and watched this film and got the idea, but maybe he thought, wow, I could have like multiple openings to this movie and fake the audience out a couple times.
But I would probably put it as the low end for me out of these three, just because it just wastes too much time.
Yeah, I hated this movie. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy it at all. I can appreciate it from like an art standpoint, but I just didn't enjoy it. It's not
from an art standpoint.
Yeah, like, I mean, I'm so.
Anytime I think of abstract art film, I think of Killer Party.
Water High. For those of you just joining us, or if you weren't paying attention, this movie is also filmed in 1980 or released in 1986. And this is the one that we did not watch together. And I'm going to tell you guys, I liked it. It was okay. I was kind of entertained. But I thought it was boring. I caught myself, I had just painted a wall at my house, and I caught myself wanting to pause the movie so I could watch the paint dry on the wall.
How dare you, sir?
But I mean, overall, I mean, the hazing was brutal and cruel. I can see why that, you know, just, I didn't really grow up in this culture, but this one I related to the most because it kind of reminded me of like being back in middle school. You know, the mid 80s, mid to late 80s, you know, the gym class. This movie had a lot of middle fingers going on in it, and I liked it. But again, I just wasn't invested. I didn't fall in love with any of the characters. And I don't know if it's too soon to tell this joke, but the main character, the guy with the glasses, he actually passed away of a drug overdose after filming this movie. And
Marty?
I'm hoping he didn't do that because he knew how bad this movie was going to be.
R.I.P. Marty. R.I.P. Marty.
R.I.P. Marty. A kid gets picked on. I mean, it was just absolutely brutal. I remember getting picked on in elementary school and all of that. And for him to want to plot that revenge and come after them, that seemed really realistic to me and clever and what you want to see in a horror movie. There's got to be some catalyst as to why he wants to kill these people.
You know, it sucks that Simon Shootamore, who played Marty, died. But I'm assuming this entire cast is dead because most of the actors averaged at about 35 to 37 years old playing high school students. So if they're not dead, they're getting there. It looked like the retiring gym teacher, not the new gym teacher, but that was actually a student in the movie. This is my favorite out of the bunch, just because it's right up my alley.
Sell it to me, Ben. Sell it to me. Why is this your favorite?
Because it's cheesy and it's awful and it's everything I love about 80s slasher. I was watching this with Josh, and when the music kicked in with that funny like organ, we were fucking pissing ourselves. Like, and they just keep playing that. This and like Pieces, like I love that stuff because it's terrible.
The lousy bastard was in there killing her! Bastard!
There's that shot where the lead actress, who was a Bond girl, by the way, previously before being in this movie, she was in a Bond movie. She when she calls her agent, kind of right after the initial setup of the movie, and it jumps forward in time.
And you realize like she's a porn star, basically.
He's like
right?
a porn star, but he's got a Pieces poster on the wall behind him, and he is the actor is actually the producer of Pieces.
He looks as sleazy as I always pictured him.
Yeah,
it's got great, funny violence, but over the top kills that look so terrible. Like a hatchet swings in one hand, and then the next cut goes to a cardboard, or not a cardboard, like a wooden head, and it hits it. Not the way it would hit a human head, but the way it would hit a piece of wood. I love that stuff. I love the use of one hallway. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. The first act of the movie, or the first 20 minutes, I think, is when they're still in high school. I don't know if it's 20 minutes, but you know what I mean. The first,
it does take a while. Yeah,
it does take a while. You only see one hallway kind of showing this high school. Their set was clearly restricted to just having one hallway, and there's only two classes. There's the chemistry lab and there's the gym class, and they're right next to each other as far as the doors are concerned for some reason. And then you have the gym, which I love it. People just lifting random weights. There's like no gym equipment in there, but they're just laying on benches, like lifting dumbbells out of nowhere. But the chemistry lab, it's just all these jangly like bottles of like really deadly chemicals just kind of jangling around. I love how he puts the deadliest acid up on the top of this fucking shelf that's just wiggling all over the place.
Yeah, they make sure you see it wiggle multiple times as he's putting it up. When after it's up, it's still jiggling constantly.
Once the action gets going in the second act, it no longer looks like a school. Not that it really ever did, but there's like random staircase. It looks like a haunted house at that point. There's just, remember there's a room that they go, the two go in to fuck, where they get electrocuted, which is one of the best scenes in the movie. There's just like a bed and a TV. Like, I'm assuming that's the janitor's room. That poor guy that poor guy that did nothing wrong.
Yeah, and I want to go back to the science room really quick. Didn't you find it nostalgic? When was the last time you saw a Bunsen burner? I mean, that really
You know, Marty was a stoner. Like normally they don't depict these.
He's smoking the shit out of that weed, dude.
Yeah. Well, I thought he went in there to smoke some weed, but apparently he went in there to drop some acid all over his face.
Oh,
But that scene was actually really, like, for the production value you get in this movie, that scene was impressive. Like all the fire everywhere, and even the moment that the acid splashes his face and stuff like that. That whole scene is one of the better scenes of the movie. Besides, a number of the kills are good for the budget that they have. Like they're creative, they're unique. The effects that they were able to put on screen are at least kind of gross or whatever. So it's
the Asian girl dying in the bathtub. That was a great.
It was just so weird though. Why did she go? This movie is so bizarre, and that's what I love about it. It's like just saw their friend's stomach explode, and like just his intestines fly out of his body, and she's got a little bit of blood on her face, so she gets naked. I'm not complaining.
Neither was
and goes into a bathtub with about 2 inches of water in it, and just lays there naked and splashes some water on her face to get the blood off. Why is she taking a bath? And where is this bathtub in the old abandoned high school?
Yeah.
You know, sometimes a good slasher movie that's condensed to like a bottle location, like one spot. It's these people are dying, but the other friends don't know they're dying. They just think they're off somewhere else. So then they're like, hey, look at this room. Let's go in here and fuck. But all these people are witnessing people die, and the couple still goes into that room and fuck, even though they know people are getting murdered. And that's the best kill of the movie for me. Like it's so sleazy. Like the guy's even like, oh,
It does look pretty painful watching them get electrocuted. And
it's fucking great. And I love it too, because remember, they electrocuted him when he reached for a towel on the towel rack, and those motherfuckers were cruel.
They're supposedly doing it because it's April Fool's Day, so that, you know, it plays into, even though this is Slaughter High, this movie wanted to be called April Fool's Day as well, but it came out in November, months later, so it lost the chance to be first and didn't get the title. Slaughter High is a pretty good title for what we get out of this movie. But yeah, supposedly Marty's birthday is on April Fool's Day. So they're just bullying him, and I guess playing, as they would call it, a prank on April Fool's Day on him. And then obviously because all this goes wrong and he doesn't die, obviously he's disfigured and injured, and apparently, like, I forget if the reunion is supposed to be 10 years later or whatever, how much time's passed, but there's a little moment where they talk about Marty and say, oh yeah, he ended up in an insane asylum, and
they say he still roams the nut house, ever hopeful of that chance to escape.
How they would know this, I hear he's still trying to like get out and get revenge or something. They say that before people even die. Then people start dying. They still don't think it's Marty. It takes them forever to kind of figure out that maybe it's Marty.
I get that it's the age before the internet. So when you're getting an invite to a high school reunion, it's by mail and you don't know who's going to be there. But they all drive down what is now an abandoned road to an abandoned building, which was their high school. There's no lights. There's nothing. It's already dark. So don't you think the reunion should have been going on by now? And don't even get me started. Then there's that character that shows up way late in the movie, gets there around 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, that thinks, oh, I'm late to the reunion. It's like, well, I would pretty sure it'd be over by that point. You know that woman that shows up towards the end of the movie, and you're like, yeah, wow, there's a whole nother character that just showed up. How are any of these people convinced that this is actually where this reunion is supposed to happen? Like, the building is condemned. The road is filled with weeds. It's not maintained. There's no lights. I guess there's still power because the movie just needed there to be power, but
I don't know the cinematic term for it, so jump in at any time. But this movie had the most like foreshadowing, for lack of a better word, of like what was actually going to happen. And it had those really cheesy scenes where like, hey, don't go in there. You're going to die. And then they just decide to go in there anyway. Because you want a little bit of realism, especially when I'm watching a movie. I want it to feel somewhat realistic. I want to be able to dive into that world. And this one, it was just the setups were so cheesy. I would have been out of that place the first 10 minutes I was there. I don't care if there's free chips and beer.
I wouldn't have gone in.
The cinematic language or phrasing you were looking for is fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Stupid!
All right, somebody set up chips, drinks, and beer for 7 people. Like, you know, it's the killer. You know, they're
And then
all
the
gonna have
first
a bad
person that
time.
drinks anything from those drinks, his stomach explodes, and then they all just go off and have sex, and someone takes a bath instead of getting the fuck out of there and calling the police.
Well, no, one guy goes to fix a tractor instead of just go outside and get in their own vehicles. Like, I don't remember a scene where they say, "Oh, our vehicles have all been dismantled. We can't get out of here."
No, they
just
for some reason they
choose
think they're
to fix a
stuck in
tractor.
there.
And apparently, in the UK where this was filmed, and apparently a lot of these actors are UK actors trying to pull off American accents. I didn't really know.
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't know that. That's
yeah,
cool.
I mean, I guess I have to give them some credit
Yeah.
if that's the case. Yeah, I guess that's the rule in the UK is that you stop your pranks at noon. The pranks that happen after noon are bad luck, or it's bad to continue the pranks after noon.
They should have just kept it set in Britain then. I mean, that would have been more interesting, right?
Well, and that's what I find ironic about what we're talking about is because this movie out of the 3 is the best representation of like American culture during this time frame, in my opinion. That's not really necessarily a
I would go with April Fool's Day.
I would even say Killer Party represents pretty good, like American university life.
Yeah, but this one has some of that charm that a really terrible, so bad it's good kind of
Absolutely
80s horror movie can have, and the kills are pretty good. I mean, I've sat through some of the other ones that, you know, the other titles of like Sorority Row,
yeah,
all those ones, you know. I've seen a lot of those ones, and this one has kills that kind of stand out beyond what a lot of those ones have.
The bathtub kill with the acid, the electrocution on the bed, the random axe, emergency axe that's just sitting there to the head, even though that's so goofy. There's a lot of great kills. This movie has the best kills, and I don't even think that's a question.
Did you guys notice, I don't know if this was trying to reference something, but during the electrocution kill, or actually before he gets electrocuted, when they're just having sex, he says, she's like, talk dirty to me, and he doesn't know how to do it, so he says really stupid shit like, fuck, tits.
John, she's the married woman.
Oh, that's right. And her husband's there too.
Her husband's the guy fixing the tractor.
Is fixing the fucking tractor, and she's the ugliest one too. She looked like a guy to me. But so you hate all these people. You hate them.
You hate them.
We can always go back to this. If this movie was made today, well, it couldn't be made today, clearly, you know. But if it was, you would have at least one sympathetic person that like regretted it, that would become the main focus, that would be like, you know what we should do is we should find this person and apologize and blah blah blah. But instead these people are just like, hey, let's all go back and party at our high school where we like burned the guy's face off. Like Marty just, you know, unveils himself to the last final girl, to the one we've been talking about, and instead of like her putting up any kind of a fight, he just pitchforks her ass and she just fucking dies.
So then Marty has a dream, and then he wakes up from that dream. But then, I forget how they edit it, then the doctor walks in and thinks it's a nurse over Marty, but really it's Marty now dressed as the nurse, and turns around and stabs him in the eye with a syringe. So of all of those little setups that constitute the ending, clearly the one at the school where he stabs her and walks away or whatever, but then there's a dream. And then there's this kind of odd moment where he's not in bed anymore, he's killing somebody. So did he dream that he was having this revenge and none of those people are actually dead, playing into the same April Fool's ending that we got in the other April Fool's movie? But the little tag on that we have with him in the hospital bed or hospital room is real, that he's now trying to escape and killing a doctor, and basically then the very ending is he starts ripping his own face off, looking straight in the camera. So I don't know where it's going.
John, or is it a prologue set at the end of the movie where just waking up from what happened, and this is his plot to escape the mental institution and then go off and do that stuff? Maybe it's a very non-linear thing. Yeah, it's I've totally forgot about that final like 1 minute. Yeah,
I like to give the movie more credit to be considered creative by saying that actually all those people are still alive, and that Marty was just dreaming about getting this revenge. But now this little short scene that takes place after that is real, and he is on his way to make it all happen.
Maybe they were trying to set it up for a sequel, but then he actually died. He actually died in real life, so they went another direction.
I guess you'd have to say Marty, that actor, he was really a killer at the end of the day.
Oh,
Too soon, John. Too soon.
One of the guys tries to scare the group by wearing a hockey mask. And then he even says to them, "Who'd you think I was? Jason?"
I said that to Josh when I was watching this. I was like, dude, can you believe it? Like, we're watching a movie right now that's fucking 40 years old, and they're referencing Jason. That's how long Jason has been around.
I think all of these movies in their own way were a little ahead of their time. Killer Party having those fake out openings that kind of play into what Scream 4 did. This one having references to popular other horror icons. All three movies, the bad guy wins. In April Fool's, she's not actually a real bad guy, but technically the person you think is doing the killing wins, defeats, or I don't know how you look at that one because no one's really dead, but still, like, she survives and she kind of wins, achieves her goal. The other two are killers or whatever that are killing people throughout the movie. I guess if you look at Killer Party, it's not the same girl who makes it to the end, but the demon.
The demon's still there.
The demon's still there, and a bad guy's about to kill another person as the movie ends.
Yeah.
And then Marty clearly has all kinds of victories throughout the movie.
To me, Marty is the best villain, but then it's hard to dispute that because at the end of April Fool's, there's not really a villain. And then Killer Party, it's just sort of a demon that we didn't learn much about until it started killing people.
There's a lot to like about Slaughter High in a very low budget type of way.
But I liked that scene where the girl goes into the room and it has that actual video playing of them hazing Marty way earlier. That was kind of eerie and clever and kind of brought it all full circle. And kind of reminded you why this is all happening or what the premise was or what the motivation was for Marty. So I thought that was great, especially for 1986.
It's hard for me to just full out say this is my favorite one, but it's kind of got the most positives in terms of watching cheesy 80s horror movies. April Fool's Day is like the classy one and polished production. And so I would gravitate towards watching that more often, but I think the reality is that Slaughter High should be my top pick of the three here.
Yeah! My top pick as well.
It's my top pick as well. Killer Party's not even nominated anywhere.
This one's first. April Fool's Day is second. And Killer Party's just too little too late when it got good. So that's my last. Yeah.
I think we all have the same order.
I think so. Yeah.
Big minds think alike.
Ain't no fooling around on this one.
Actually, we didn't see any of these movies. April Fools!
We drink your cinema.